Waitara, e no ane rungi te whenua o Ngāti Rāiri, kei mātai oitu. Ko te mai i tērā wā, ko te mai keri māra, te mai mātaitai, e ko i ana ngā kai, e ari atu ki pariaka mō ngā ui i e rā marama, i e rā marama. Ka ere atu tērā mai, ki te wā o te mate o tātou nei rangatira o tērā wā i a te uiti orongo mai. I tērā wā, ka aere ana tātou nei tūpuna a te rangi matutore ki te tao o tērā rangatira a te uiti orongo mai. E ki ana a te uiti ki a ia. E rangi oki atu ki te Waitara, a ngā e marae reira mo te Aotearoa. A ka tai te wā, a te kānohi o te ao, ka titiro ki te Waitara, kei reira te e tuatai mo te pakanga o te whenua o Taranaki. No reira, ko au te i o ngā uri o tērā, o kāro o tērā moi moi a, ka oki atu ki te Waitara, e a ngā e marae reira. Ko te wā ka tū ana te marae mō te Aotearoa mō Taranaki kei manu kōrihi. I runga i te pari o manu kōrihi i te tahataha o te awa o Waitara. Nō reira, ko tērā te kōrero mō tātou nei, o tātou nei whānau. E kei mai nei ki a tātou e te i o ngā kōrero pāna ki te pakanga, ngā kōrero pāna ki te muru, me te raupatu o ngā whenua o Taranaki, huri rauna te maunga o tātou nei. Nō reira, tēnā koe.
Ko te karanga o te whenua, ko te ahurea o tōna whakatipuranga ake, kei roto pū i ana mahi katoa.
Ngā whakakoranga e mau nei, mo i anau. Ngā tohu o te whitirau katohu. Mau ngā rongo ki rungi te whenua whakaro pai ki te tangata. Korori ki tō tātou matua i te rangi. Koe rā ngā tohu i wewai ki a mātou. Te aki i te tangata.
Noble and I, being the first of the family, came up in the area around the Depression and we worked hard because my mother was one of those who felt that people were very important, not only in her life but to us kids as well. And therefore she opened the house here and our job was to supply the food to feed the people. They came from all over Waitara, they came from further afield, Maori, Pākehā, the whole lot used to come to this house where they were fed. Some would sleep here, of course they couldn't get home in time. And that was the beautiful thing about my parents. They loved people and they cared for people. And that's why her door was always open to all and sundry who wanted to come here.
Dad was always working, whether it be here or at the marae. He was always there, and as children, most times we'd go with them up to the marae and see how life was up there. And I know on cold days they used to have all the umus around on the floor, maybe about 4 or 5 of them around on the floor to help to keep the room warm. And that was umus with charcoal put in them. You know, that's one way of keeping everybody warm.
I was involved with Dad a lot in committee work, and he was a leader, and the committees that he was in charge of I called them the real kaumatus in my life because they were the learned older men of each family.
We always used to have heaps of people here all the time, and Mum used to, you know, when they came in after a while we got used to it, she'd say, don't ask them if they've had tea, just tell them to sit down and give them something to eat. So it just became the natural thing. You didn't ask anybody if they've had a feed, you know, you just told them to sit down.
One thing she always told us when we were young, with people, you treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
You know, if you're good to people and people are good to you, well, that's all you want in life.
Everybody.
Mum and Dad, they were both hard workers. Mum looked after all of us, and when it came to washing day on Saturday, she'd wash all day. We didn't have a washing machine. We had a copper, and she washed all day, and there were clothes on the long clothesline, on the fences, on the hedges, everywhere.
The day she was had a washing machine put in here, I thought that was a nice day, because she deserved it.
My mother was a very embracing, really very loving lady, but still strong, yeah, still very strong and matriarchal, but elegant, you know, and she's very much a leader, and she had this aroha for people that was unusually large. Yeah, where she could become passionate and annoyed about something, but she would always rationalise it by just saying things like, that's our people.
Dad sometimes, I think, might have not have been as tolerant with people, but he was a leader. He was a good leader.
I saw him as a wonderful, wonderful, gentle man. And I saw him with great love and generosity towards his wife and to his children. That's how I prefer to see him as. I know there are all sorts of stories about him, but, you know, those are things that they can say about any man. He's just a man.
I've got a bit of my mother inside of me, I think. I've got a bit of my father too, because I'm capable of great aroha, but I'm also capable of great anger and, I suspect, violence. And I see that if someone cuts across my family, I'm very protective, and I guess that's the warriors that are coming out in all my paintings. So one has to understand, when you create art, you are not only going back and pulling into your art the things that are visible in the physical world, but you're also pulling things that are in the spiritual world. And when you move into that area, you're also going into things that are really part of your genetic memory, and you have to control some of that, you have to understand it, and you have to sort of be able to put that into some art form, and some artists use it in music or writing, or like me in painting and sculpture.
Then judge the one next door. You should know that they just like you. Flesh and blood and soul just like you. Walls and walls and things can find you. Both will grow and change and move. just like you know, just like you know, just like you know, just like you know. Can't judge the ones behind you. Got the same ambition, maybe not the same direction. Yet to find their motivation, yet they may be close behind you. Got to accept they could be like you, like you, like you.
Ko Darcy te kai whakahaere o te whare taonga o Pātaka I Porirua.
Oh, they're all having a look at the pool.
Kei te whanganui a tara ngā kaumātua o te whare taonga o Pukeariki I Taranaki. E ranga hauana I ngā mahi o whare taonga kē. Whakatūtuki ana tō rātou haerenga I te toro I a Darcy ki Pātaka. Kei Pātaka hoki te rōpū ko ngā mahi a rehia o Whitireia.
Having Whitireia here too.
Yes, good having Whitireia here. Yeah, your visit there was a very, very good one for them. Yeah, because they would have thought, hold on, we're meeting real people.
We talked about that down at the archives, about the not having contact with the elders, and every now and again one of them remarked about how good it was to have a visit from iwi.
Yeah, you know, you got it once if you get so big that you forget your own group.
Yeah.
You know, what's the point of being there?
Ko huri ngā wā, ko huri hoki te āhuatanga o ngā whare taonga. Kei te pā atu kia Pātaka, kia Pukeariki hoki, ngā huringa nei.
Ko tetehi o ngā tino kaupapa o tēnei ware taonga. Kia ata akiaki, kia ata tautoko I ngā wānau, I ngā tangata, I ngā apu me ngā iwi, kia ara mai ki te tiaki o rātou taonga. Me harei te mea kia taitau nō mai rātou I te mai I ngā mai, engari kua tūwera te tatau, kia tā mai ngā mea I te kāna, kia hara mai ki te ata wai I o rātou taonga. Kāore oki te rite ki ngā rangi o mua, kua katia, kua au katia ngā tatau I ngā tangata katoa a kua koai, kia ara mai ki te mii ki o rātou taonga.
Pērā anō I ngā kaumātua o Pukeariki, ka haere e ki whare taonga kē, ki te rapu me te whakawhitiwhiti mātauranga. I Amerika, ko hoki anō ngā iwi, ki te tiaki I a rātou ake taonga, me te whakatūnga o ngā whare taonga a iwi.
Huckleberry baskets.
These are beautiful baskets.
Yes. This one even has...
Do these ever leave here?
They do. They go on loan and to
They're
other places.
magnificent.
Yes. Or if I have an in-house exhibit, if we don't have funds for something, then we'll just have coiled baskets of the Columbia River. So this will be part of the exhibit.
My connection to Darcy started a couple of years ago when he came here to scout locations for the Eternal Thread exhibition. He came to a friend's house to just to say hi and to meet people, and I just happened to be there that night, and we started talking. And he says that I asked some intriguing questions. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but he certainly remembered me. And he mentioned to my girlfriend that he wanted to invite me to the museum's Aotearoa conference. And a couple of months later, he did. So that was the start of it. It's a relatively new relationship, but just love him like a brother.
Nā ana mahi, ko Lisa tētahi e whakatū whare taonga a iwi ana, pēnei I tō Warm Springs ki Oregon.
There are about 150 tribal museums all around the country, and the tribal museum movement started in the 1960s, 1970s as a result of the civil rights movement and a lot of the civil rights protests that were taking place at the time. And tribes and American Indian people had jumped right into that movement, and so as a result of that, they wanted not only to control their own or be able to tell their own stories, but also to be able to tell their own stories within the context of museums. And so you started to see tribal museums pop up all around the country.
It is stunning.
Museums are very attractive to tribes. All tribes want a museum. In fact, I always say that there are only two types of tribes, that in spite of the great cultural diversity of tribes, that it really does boil down to two and only two types of tribes, those that have a tribal museum and those that want a tribal museum. And you know, that basically sums it up. In fact, I tested that statement on some tribal leaders, and it met with great laughter, but also in total agreement. So yeah, everybody wants a tribal museum. So you're going to see a lot more open up probably in the next decade or so.
I te tau 2005, I tai mai a Lisa mo te hui whare taonga o Aotearoa.
They were our hosts for a week in Porirua, but Darcy, he's taught me a lot. He's given us a lot. We've learned so much about New Zealand and about Maori culture, and we have a huge extended family down there now. Pataka is, I think, one of the finest museums I've ever visited.
That's what this place is all based on. It's based on a people place. Yeah, and I did use concepts of the marae. Yeah, and the marae should be a place where you feel comfortable to come and just meet, sit down, talk, argue, debate issues, and then sort of accept, well, okay, we're all in the same thing together, so let's laugh about, have a feed, and then go back to our houses. So. Maraes are changing all over the place now. We're getting to a stage where some are open for the family to come and go and sit down and just think and contemplate of our history and our people. But a lot of our maraes now are closed down and shut to people, and you have to have a very official approach to whoever the committee is there at the time. So they're ceasing to become open and welcoming, and that's something probably future generations need to access. I mean, I could walk into great cathedrals all around the world and sit in there and just enjoy the beauty and the history that's in those. But you can't do that even at Allway today. You can't do that. There's a lot of strife amongst our people as to who owns what, and actually none of us really own our history. Our history is something that's been lived, and so there's a certain amount of sadness because Allway was a major part of my life. Over a period of time, I've accepted that my wharenui is really Mount Taranaki, and you see it in all my paintings, and I know it's always there for me to look at and enjoy and think of the history of who we are as a people. This is Pukerangi Pa, which is a place that's steeped in a huge amount of history, and its history tells the story about the battles between my tribe, my mother's people, and also Waikato. And Waikato decimated my people here, and my great-grandfather, Watene Taungatara, just escaped by the skin of his teeth from Waikato, otherwise he would have been killed and I wouldn't have existed. But everyone's intermarried since then, and it's no different to the land wars. You know, we've all intermarried again, and my wife's Scottish from Aberdeen, and I've got a bit of Scottish in me as well. You know, we're Campbells and McDonalds and all part of my family. And like Anne's cousin explained to me, a sort of bigger pack of scoundrels have never walked the Highland Hills before, you know. And I mean, that's all part of who we are.
Ia Darcy e kurana I whaia e ia tētahi tohu paitahi I roto I ngā mahi ātoi. He oe, nā tōna kaiako anō te ki, kāre he oranga I roto I enei mahi. Ko ia Darcy I whai ngā tapu ai o tōna tuakana a Harry, I hunuku ia ki te whanganui ātara mahi pirihi manae. Ahakoa ki tō te titiro ko he pea te ara, ka hutonu atu tau ara ki te tika. Nā ana mahi pirihimana, he nui ngā pukenga kua riro mai I a Darcy. Kua whai hua e nei no muri mai, I roto I ana mahi mo te iwi, mo ngā kaitoe, me ngā whakaaturanga I tā wāhi. I taua wā tonu, I tūtaki ia ki tōna hoa rangatira a Anne.
I met Darcy at a dance in Wellington on a Friday night, and with a girlfriend there, and we sort of got together from there and went up to meet his family, and I thought I'll never remember all these people, you know, 12 in his family. So it was quite overwhelming at first.